Good morning and welcome to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Glad to have you aboard here. Hump Day, here it is, the 22nd day of March. And a little bit of a warning to start off with here this morning for some folks, residents in the area, about a boil water warning.
Yes, Dutch Island has they have a boil water advisory in effect right now until this afternoon. And they said that it was due to low pressure in the water system. So quite interesting, but just make sure if you are in Dutch Island, you are boiling that water and following the protocols there.
Or you are going through get your own bottled water or whatever it is,
Yes.
Maybe have your own well or something like that, but just be aware. Meanwhile, it's back to school.
Yes, it is. Well, with the great news of our superintendent retiring here in Chatham County,
She's retiring.
Yes,
Yeah.
there is hope for us to get a brand new superintendent that has some experience in turning schools around, because we do need our schools here in Chatham County to be turned around and quickly.
Boy, they do. Now, when you see what's going on out in Los Angeles, where the teachers are on strike, well, they don't tell you they're on strike. They're just in sympathy with the SEIU workers that are there that want like a 20 or 30% raise. In what world do you get a 20 or 30% raise at one time? And what else is happening out there? The fact that the kids aren't learning anything anyway, so there might be better outside the classroom.
Yep.
But at the same time, these people, where's all that COVID money that was coming in? And the teachers just went on strike and got a big raise like 2 years ago, about a year or so ago. So this is just ridiculous. And you don't, in the real world, you don't get a 20 to 30% raise most of the time.
Well, they're thinking maybe because Biden's in charge, maybe he'll just print the money for them.
That's true. It's another one of those bailouts. You get it from the SEIU bank or whatever that was, the Silicon Valley Bank. Yeah, that's the one. But today you can weigh in on the superintendent search.
Yes, it's at Beach High School from 6 to 7, so it should be short and sweet, but I think it's important that we provide our input as they do search for that superintendent and tell them exactly what we're looking for. And I think the number one thing, at least in my opinion, is someone that has the education at the forefront, which I feel like it should be, but turning around those test scores and making sure that we have kids that can read by third grade, because I think that that's a huge issue in our county. We have some schools that I believe only 22% of the third graders are reading at grade level.
That's pathetic. That is a pathetic statistic. And there's also going to be a special meeting tomorrow morning to talk about the selection of the search firm for the new superintendent by the school board itself. I guess that's one of those executive session type things. So.
Yes.
But hopefully we can get things turned around for our school system, because it's pathetic when we have to sort of give a recording of the diploma to some of our graduates because they can't read the darn diploma. That used to be a joke, and now it is reality. And when the kids can't read at certain levels, they can't do all the other work at certain levels. You can bet that there are other countries that don't have to put up with this sort of nonsense, that they have kids that actually want to go to school and are actually learning stuff and not what their pronouns are. They're also learning verb-subject agreement in English or whatever language they happen to be speaking. Oh, well, by the way, you know, a lot of South Koreans are moving to town now because they didn't get a good education. Might want to think that maybe their child should get a better education when they see what is happening. It goes back to Dr. Ben Carson is a classic example. His mother made him sit down and do his homework. His brother, she insisted on seeing their papers before they turned them in, except he didn't find out until, I think, after he graduated, that his mother never knew how to read. But she wanted to make sure that they did. And Ben Carson has turned into one of those sterling examples as maybe the greatest pediatric neurosurgeon in the history of mankind.
You're not wrong, Bill.
So that was just a stern mother who wanted to make sure that her kids got a good education because she didn't have one.
Well, not only that, people that probably don't have a high school degree, didn't go to college, those people are survivors. Mm-hmm. They learn how to make it regardless of their circumstances.
Exactly.
Those people are smart. They're, you know what, probably even smarter than a lot of the academic people, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, some of these people that have more degrees than a thermometer might have started out as normal at once upon a time and just went nuts by degrees.
Yes. Well, and we have a couple comments from our friend Lizzie. one of them is protect our children's innocence, and can you change opinion on a dime and no one can call you on it if you're a Democrat? And she says, "OMG, I think them thinking it's a problem putting our tax dollars into her hands. Parents need to demand better schools. As long as they are silent, the admins making six figures will keep doing as little as possible." And I do believe she's correct there.
I think the worry that we have is because the left is so egregious in the way they come after people. It is the same way about you can ban Christianity in schools. You can tell kids that they can't wear the shirt with the cross on it. You can ban the Bible, but not the Quran, because people are afraid of the peace-loving Muslims that might come in and blow up the school or start shooting up the school. And so these people now, they see what's happened at these school board meetings where the guy gets arrested because he's upset because his child was raped by a transgender boy in the restroom. And he's the one who gets it. So they're looking. So we've been shamed into silence. It is like a great book that was out some years ago, but called "Why We Whisper."
Well, and Bill, I don't know what we have to do to activate people, but what's going on? I know that we always it sounds very hyperbolic, but at a certain point, there may not be a way to turn back from this stuff.
I know.
And
this ain't this isn't hyperbole. This is a fact that I'm not really sure public schools can be saved, and I'm including the universities.
Well, and I mean, we've seen two prominent people talk in the last several months and say, you know what? If you have the opportunity to get your kid out of public school, take it and run. They don't believe that public schools can be saved either, and I'm sure that them going across the country, they've seen a lot of things that we haven't seen, Bill. So, Eric Metaxas is one, and then Star Parker was the other one. So, I don't know. There's a lot to be said about this, but kind of on the same topic, why are they so determined to come after kids with all? Why are they pushing these drag queen story hours on everyone and these, drag queen?
Well, if you destroy the children, if you you destroy their innocence. If you destroy the kids, then you have them for life. What was it wasn't Stalin? It was Marx, Marx and Engels, who said, who said, if you'll give me your child for at 14, I can convert them a little bit, or I can persuade them to do such and such. But if you give it to me at 3 to 4, I'll have them for life. And that's I'm misquoting that's the philosophy. The younger you get these kids, the younger you can corrupt them, the more you'll have them on your side, and they'll be under your thumb and under your control, and they'll believe all of this garbage.
Well, and that's why I have an issue. I have a really hard time with the pre-K schools because they are still government-run programs, and I don't trust them.
I don't either.
I do think we need to do something for the children. I do know that they are asking people to go in and volunteer their time for an hour and spend time helping third graders and below read, because that will change their life. That's a small thing that we can participate in, but really it is the responsibility of the school to make sure that the children can read, and it's not happening. So we have to make major changes. Or pull your kids out. And I know not a lot of people have that option, but hopefully we can get, this school choice passed and then give people the ability to choose the school, and maybe competition will make these schools better.
Well, you need to be like the lady in Chicago that made national news a few years. She actually retired and passed away right near us in Bluffton, South Carolina. She started her own private school. She saw how bad inner city schools were in Chicago. And so she started her own private school and charged the kid, maybe $1 if they could afford $1 to come to the school. And they did a big spread on it. The late Morley Safer did a big spread on it on 60 Minutes. And they're talking to these kids who are 8 and 9 years old. Who's your favorite author? Chaucer.
Oh, wow.
Dante. And he's like, what? And she's taught them classical education and basic, reading, writing, arithmetic. learning how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide, and how to read. And she gave them classics to read, and they loved it. And they were doing extremely well. And so start your own school. There was a lady in Tallahassee, Florida, a black lady that did the same thing. She wasn't happy with what the public schools were doing for her kids. And so she started her own full career because General Chappie James became the first black 4-star general in the history of the United States military. Wow. So she done good. She taught them love, honesty, and patriotism. And that's how, so start your own school.
I agree with that. And our friend Lizzie's on fire today. She says so many stories of young conservatives going to college and coming back indoctrinated liberals. Mm-hmm. She said the Nazi Germany did the same thing with their youth.
Exactly.
And per capita, Savannah has an extremely large number of private schools.
Yeah, you heard about the Nazi youth, and the brown shirts and all of that, and the kids that were turning in their parents. So that's how it works.
Yep.
You get the kids younger and younger, and that's what happens. All right, coming up next, we're going to get real about
wokeness. What is it?
Yeah, we're going to define it for you. We have the perfect explanation next. At Get Real America, we want to make sure that the real story gets out, and you can help us as a sponsor or as an advertiser to make sure that that word does get out to the community.
Be a sponsor and support your local community here at Get Real America.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance, with integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
I don't think it's an accident that I ended up writing music for a living, because I think I lived in a house where I saw how deeply it affected everyone in the house. And just how much everyone defined themselves by the music they listened to.
Music as a framework, I think, gave my parents my identity from a young age. You can like any music that you want if it makes you feel happy. And now when I hear certain songs, I think of them, and I think of them in their happiest state, and it makes me happy.
If they seem like they're having trouble talking about something, I try to tell them about a time when I felt something similar.
Whatever the issue was, we would tell them the pros and cons and how important it was that they had come to us because we could always help them. I think the real important point, we always told them, no matter what you do, no matter what happens, we will help you through it no matter what it is.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Zipping right along here on this Wednesday morning. It's hard to believe it's Wednesday already. For some reason, this week is pretty much flying by. Right up the road from us, by the way, there's more about this Alex Murdaugh case that has been in national and even international news. The law firm representing the family of Stephen Smith, says that the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, aka SLED, is now considering the death of Smith a homicide.
Yeah, I don't think that the bad news is going to stop for the Murdaugh family. I do
No.
think that there is a lot of stuff that was swept under the rug that will now be pushed out from under it.
Can you imagine Grandpa rolling over in his grave at this point? You've established what was probably one of the most well-respected law firms in the state of South Carolina, or anywhere in the Carolina Lowcountry and Coastal Empire. And all you have to do, you've inherited this. All you have to do is go in and represent people and make a fortune. You don't have to steal their money. You don't have to kill members of your family. You just go in and do your job, and it's the life of Riley. It's already they're paid for you. But this 19-year-old Smith died in July of 2015 of a presumed hit-and-run accident. But now his parents are beginning to question that, and they were wondering why this investigation ran so quickly. So they're collecting money. They've even got a GoFundMe page to exhume his body. They're getting permission from the courts to exhume the body and do further tests.
Yeah, I think that unfortunately, stuff like this does happen when you have too much money and too much power. I think that you can get away with whatever you want, and I think it does catch up to you eventually. I do think that this is going to come crashing down.
Yeah, it's like playing Russian roulette. Sooner or later, the gun goes off. So here we are.
Yeah. So.
Oh, by the way, if you're not familiar with Russian roulette, you know what? Sometimes I use these terms that have been around for a while, but they sometimes have gotten so archaic or anachronistic that people don't know what we're talking about. In case you're not familiar with the term Russian roulette, it was a game. Why somebody invented this, I have no idea. But it was when revolvers, you put one bullet in a 6-round revolver, and you spin the cylinder and slap it back in without watching, and then you put the gun to your head and pull the trigger. Pretty good chance that it's not gonna fire, but every once in a while it lands on the bullet, and you're a goner. So that's what we mean by Russian roulette. Just in case we were using a term that you didn't understand.
Yeah, which I find very. I mean, when you Russian roulette, you use it in a lot of terminology, but like when you actually think about what it is, it's like, man, why did someone want to play this game?
Yeah,
not sure.
Mm-hmm. So
maybe it didn't start out as a game. Maybe we should look into that. But
it may not have, but nevertheless, that's exactly what happens when you think you're going to get away with something, and for a while it looks good, and then sooner or later, the gun goes off.
Yes, and I think, like I said, I think that the Murdaugh family, it's not over for them yet.
No, it's not. And it's so sad because a lot of these people, through no fault of their own, and I don't know how many people worked at the firm, but you're like, really?
Yeah, you probably just want this to blow over and get back to the normal, but I don't think it's going to happen for quite some time.
Normal ain't going to be there anymore.
No, I think that we're going to see more victims come out as well because there was a lot of fraud committed as well.
Yeah, there was. So. And the people that got hurt the most are the ones, maybe somebody who was destitute. They used all the resources they possibly could, raised all the money they possibly could to pay a good law firm, and this is what happened to them. What a shame.
Yep. Well, I know one of them was a police officer that was injured and had some medical bills and things like that, and ended up with $0 from that. So.
Wow, what a tragic story.
Yes.
On so many levels. Meanwhile, let's talk about wokeness.
Yes, and I hate to break it to you guys, but Vivek, he's probably going to be on our show quite a bit. He's amazing. I think that his ability to explain things and his messaging is on point. This is what Republicans need to do. I think that we have been terrible at messaging and explaining things to people. And Vivek Ramaswamy, he's been great at it so far. He's becoming a household name and an unusual one. But I think people are actually going to know how to spell it pretty soon. Yes. And here is his explanation of wokeness. And he doesn't gild the lily either.
The new popular talking point on the American left is that conservatives don't know how to define the word woke. Well, let me give them what they asked for. You want to know what it means to be woke? It means you believe that your identity is based on your race, your gender, and your sexual orientation. and that there's an invisible power structure in the laws of nature that say that if you're white, you're straight, and you're cis, and you're male, then you're at the top of that hierarchy. And if you aren't one of those things, then you're on the bottom of that hierarchy. That there's an invisible relationship between those oppressors and those who they oppress. And that's how human relationships work. That's what it means to be woke. Further, it means you also believe that you need to correct for that hierarchy, that you need to solve it by using any means necessary, not just political power, but economic power and cultural power to correct for those invisible societal injustices. That's not just my definition. That's the definition used by people who were proponents of the woke movement just a decade ago. All right, so Jen Psaki, whoever else it is perpetuating this false narrative that conservatives can't define woke, there it is. I've done it. Now, here's the question. What's actually wrong with it? Here's my problem with the woke movement. All right, it began as a challenge to the system in some liberal arts academy somewhere. I'm fine with that. Anyone can have an idea. But what began as a challenge to the system actually became the new system in America. And what that's done is it's first rejected this idea of the individual having a sense of agency in their own lives. It says that if you're black, you're inherently disadvantaged, that if you're white, you're inherently privileged. No matter your economic background or your upbringing, your race and your gender and your sexual orientation determine who you are and what you can achieve in life and even what you're allowed to think. This is un-American. The second problem with it is that then creates a new culture of fear in our country. You want to know how that works? Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley famously summed it up when she said, "We don't want any more black faces that don't want to be a black voice. We don't want any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice." Think about that for a second. It says that your race has not to do with your skin color anymore, but with your ideas, your viewpoints. And when that happens, it means any disagreement with those ideas automatically makes you a racist, and there is no greater damnation in modern America than to be called a racist. So when given that choice versus bending the knee to this new secular cult, everyday Americans are choosing to bend the knee. And that culture of fear is what's completely replaced our culture of free speech in America. And not only has it replaced free speech, it's also replaced meritocracy in America. Be honest with yourself. Ask yourself. Think about the people you work with at work. Think about who your classmates are at school. Are you sure it's really the best people who get the job in America anymore? I think most of you, if you're being really honest, will say that that's not the case. That's not the America that exists today. It's the America we knew. It's not the America that exists today. That too is a product of the woke movement, which creates race-based and gender-based quota systems all across the country so that people get the jobs that they get, the positions that they get today, not because they earned it, but because of their genetically inherited attributes. That's wrong. That too is anti-American. But the worst part of all of this is that it divides us. It divides us to a breaking point. You want to know why? Tocqueville actually observed this years ago when he traveled America. A diverse democracy is not supposed to stand. It's supposed to fall under the weight of its own division unless there are these sacred spaces that can bind us together, whether or not we're black or white, man or woman, Democrat or Republican, places where we can come together in common cause, the companies where we work, the churches where we worship, the universities where we learn the things that we learn. The woke movement says every one of those things becomes a political bastion instead, advancing this agenda, this race and gender and sexual orientation-based view of the world. And you want to know what happens then? We lose our ability to be one people. We lose those spaces where we otherwise used to come together. And if you want to know why this country is being divided to a breaking point, the woke movement in America is a big part of the reason why. Now, I genuinely believe some people who adopt this philosophy are well-intentioned. And if you're one of those people on the left, here's what I'll tell you. I'll do my part. I'll come on your networks. I'll do whatever needs to be done to air this debate and have it in the open. But don't play this game of gaslighting the right by saying that you're making up this problem of wokeness and can't even define it. That isn't true. I've done it. Ball's in your court. Jen Psaki, MSNBC, whoever it is. You want to have the debate, fine. I'll come have it on your home turf. But don't tell me that we in the conservative movement don't understand it, because we do. And in fact, we're the ones ready to debate it.
Truer words never spoken better.
Yeah, well, I think he's going to be the cultural warrior for 2024. I think that he's doing...
Way to go.
Yeah, he's going to do a great job for the messaging. I think he'll help Trump out, honestly. And
Can't wait to see him on The View.
oh, geez. I don't think he's going to be invited. I think they're going to be too intimidated by him, but we'll see.
yeah, but God forbid they have somebody on that would tell the truth. All right, coming up next.
You know, did you know that part of our foreign policy is making sure that we represent all LGBTQ?
Oh, it is?
Yeah, we'll be looking at that when we get back.
Oh, world peace at last.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Who is a kid? Well, that's a kid. And another. Look, a gaggle of them. Or is it a herd? Litter? Pride. But what about her? Tell her she's not a kid. Or him. So how do we tell who is a kid? Height? Age, maybe. But some of us have to grow up faster than others. A kid. A kid wants to make the world better. And one day, he just might. Is a kid fearless? Vulnerable? Strong? Nervous? Yes. 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 Kiwanis is 600,000 kids at heart doing all the little and big things it takes to help children around the world. Because kids need Kiwanis. All of them.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Heading down the home stretch here for this Wednesday, 22nd day of March. And once again, a boil water warning to folks on Dutch Island. Somewhat of a water pressure problem. That means that the water is not as good as it should be. Please boil it. I think the rule of thumb is boil at least 5 minutes.
Yes.
Something along those lines.
Yes, I believe you're correct.
So it is important that you do that, or have your bottled water on hand or something like that.
Yes, and then just remember to go to Beach High School from 6 to 7 to give your input and ask questions about the new superintendent that they are searching for.
The national search is underway.
Yes, let's hope we find someone great. And one of the things that I was told in the last several weeks that has really stuck with me, and I think you said it came from a book, but the enemy of the good is the great. So
there's a book called Good from Good to Great, and the enemy of great is good. So,
Yes.
and it's like if you just want to, it's called, some people refer to it as rusting on your laurels. Okay, well that was fine. I got a C. Okay, I passed. Rather than I got a B. Well, that's nice. Boy, I sure would like to get an A.
yes,
And then A is greatness.
yes.
But we unfortunately we want to settle once once things just sort of rolling along. Said okay, yeah, everything's fine. Let's just keep going.
Well, I think that's how we've achieved mediocrity, right? I mean, that's
Without a doubt.
that's where we're at right now, I feel like. But also, friend Lizzie Warren says, we have been told gender and race is fluid, so use that against them. Always identify as the race or gender that gives you better advantage. But that's the ridiculousness that they've created, too, on the left, is that I heard this joke. It's not, I mean, it's kind of funny, but it's not really that funny because it's reality. This guy was talking about how his kid came home from school and said that there was another kid that really bothered her. And he's like, well, what's wrong with the kid? And she's like, well, it thinks it's a cat. And he's like, what do you mean? What does the teacher do? Well, it gives him a bowl of milk. And he's like, what? He's like, yeah, the kid's like, I just want to punch him in the face. And he's like, well, you could do that. And he's like, no, I don't want to get in trouble. And the dad's like, you're not going to get in trouble. Just tell him after you smack him that you're a Rottweiler and you don't like cats.
That's right.
I mean,
exactly.
what are they going to
Yeah.
say? I mean, the ridiculousness that they've created is just, it's not good for our children. It's not good for anyone, really. And it's become a joke.
Yeah, and like Brittany said, it ain't a funny one anymore.
No, I mean, I laughed at the joke, but I was like, when you look at that in reality, it's like, how did we get here? I mean,
I think when Peter Doocy, one of the few journalists that's left in the White House
press room, yeah,
in the press room, and asking cringe Jean-Pierre, who is, if she's not the dumbest woman on the planet, she's in the top two, is asked about some appointment that the president is having. I think this guy that he's appointed to be the director of the FAA has never flown on an airplane or something. I mean, he used to be a janitor somewhere, and I'm not, and I don't believe. But before you go off the hinges here, go off the handle, I'm not downplaying janitors by any stretch of the imagination. But this guy's not qualified to be the FAA director any more than Pete Bootylicious is qualified to be the transportation secretary. When asked him basic airline questions at a hearing recently, he couldn't answer any of the questions that at least the Republicans were asking him, other than maybe a Democrat might have asked him what flavor ice cream do you like the most, but. John cringe gets up there and says, well, this president's done so well. We've got the most LGBTQ people. We've got the most people of color. We've got the most Asian people. We've got how many people of those are qualified? Imagine they're rolling you into the operating room. Said, well, we couldn't find we couldn't find a surgeon today. They were all white, so we couldn't. But we have. Here's the janitor. He's watched some operations. He took a course in anatomy once upon a time in high school. He's your surgeon today.
Yeah, definitely not. And Lizzie again says, as our qualified pilots are aging out, flying is going to become exponentially more dangerous. And I agree with that. I'm not super comfortable. I'm like, do I get the why don't Biden and Kamala demand minority pilots for themselves? That's a great question. Mm-hmm. Well, at the end of the day, I'm going to ask Delta in the app. I want to see how long that pilot's been flying for the plane that I'm getting on and what his qualifications are. I mean, it's going to get to that point. I mean, I need to know before I get on the plane.
Apropos nothing, I remember Fab and I were flying out. I think it was to either to the Grand Canyon or North Dakota or something or South Dakota a few years ago, and we're sitting in the waiting area to get on the plane, and two guys dressed in Delta uniforms that looked like they were in high school come strolling up, and then this elderly black lady gets up, runs up to them, and she grabs both of them and said, "How old are you?" And the guy who was the pilot turned and said, "I'm 38." And the other guy, and she looked at the co-pilot, and he said, I'm 29. And she said, she was like, "These are the guys that are going to be flying my plane." Hey, well, we survived, and they did great, and they were both white, so they may not be qualified anymore.
That's the problem. That's the big problem. And with this new person that they've interviewed, what box does this person check?
It's black.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious.
And
I have no problem with any sort of diversity as long as they're qualified. That's really all I care about. Let's get back to the merit system. That's it.
Yeah. Again, Dr. Ben Carson, black.
Very qualified.
Very qualified.
Very qualified.
The only person, he separated Siamese twins, and both of them lived, and every other pediatric neurosurgeon in the world said that these kids couldn't be separated without one of them dying. And it was a 28-hour operation.
Oof.
But they got it done, and they both are alive and well these days.
Love it.
And Ben Carson, black, don't care.
Yep.
Could have been Arab for as far as I care. Could have been from Mars for all I care, as long as they can do the job.
Yep. And our friend Lizzie agrees. I want the best no matter what they look like. Period. End of story.
Isn't that the truth?
Yes. Well, I wish that I could say the same thing for Kirby. He is also not qualified for his position in the White House.
John Kirby, how in God's name this guy got to be an admiral in the Navy is beyond my comprehension. But he did.
Yeah.
And now he's one of the spokesmen for the Pentagon.
Yes. Well, he wants to tell us about our foreign policy. So.
Oh, well, yeah, and let's find out what Admiral Kirby has to say.
And President Biden has been nothing but consistent about his foundational belief in human rights, and LGBTQ plus rights are human rights. And we, again, back to the earlier question, are never going to shy away, be bashful about speaking up for those rights and for individuals to live as they deem fit, as they want to live. And that's something that's a core part of our foreign policy, and it will remain so.
Thanks, Admiral. You've disgraced the uniform.
Well, I think that they've just gotten so ridiculous about separating everything out. I mean, I want Americans to be represented. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what your sexual preference or orientation is.
What bothers me most are the lies and the excuses that the left makes up. For example, when they've been trying to besmirch and destroy Chick-fil-A, because they said they discriminate against the LGBTQ XO4 tilde symbol for boron community. And I said, how? They hire good people. You will see a line around a Chick-fil-A when it's open. The only day it's not open is Sunday. You will see a line around the building no matter what time you go. I sometimes get there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and there's a line out there that said, "Why haven't these people had lunch already? What are they doing here at 3 o'clock in the afternoon?" I look over at Burger King, there's no line there. Look over at McDonald's, there's no line there. Look over at Kentucky Fried Chicken, nope, nobody there either. But they're lined up around the building at 3 o'clock in the afternoon at Chick-fil-A because the food is great and the service is fantastic. And no matter how long that line is, you probably don't have to wait more than 5 minutes. And the order is right when you get it. It's whatever. All the other fast food places will look at, what are they doing? That's what we need to do. And yet they've been besmirched because they discriminate against it. They won't serve. How did they know when somebody drives up what they are?
Well, I think it's because they have Christian values. They were founded on a Christian
exactly.
platform. But I think the big thing is the fact that there are still lines. It's not working. If you have a good product, people will come.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, and
They don't know that you're and could care less. All they do, their favorite color is green. Okay, they just want your money, and they will give you a good product for it. And making up these excuses. It's like years ago, I remember when they were talking about how this is during the Reagan administration when they started making up these excuses. Things are getting so poor. Okay, some people are doing well, but we have these senior citizens now that are have to buy dog food and eat dog food. And I said, did anybody ever stop and go to the grocery store and look at the prices on dog food as compared to a can of Campbell's soup? A can of Denny Moore beef stew. It's cheaper than the dog food. So these people are idiots if they're eating dog food.
I mean, the media has always been a problem. It's been exacerbated, but the biggest problem is we haven't taught people how to think for themselves. And that's the biggest problem in the Republican Party, too, is that we all think for ourselves and we all disagree, which can cause some backbiting and some terrible fights. But I will see at least more Republicans do think for themselves.
And the media turns around and makes it look like just like the fight over the Speaker of the House just recently. Look, they're so disjointed. They don't know what they're doing. Whereas the Democrats all marching in lockstep to destroy America, and they're doing a damn good job of it.
Yes, they are.
What about Elizabeth Warren? Isn't she? Isn't she very complimentary of the president?
I think the word would be gushing.
Gushing. Elizabeth Warren gushing.
Yes.
I just love the old Liar-Watha gushing.
I think
Joe Biden, I don't agree on everything, but I'm really glad he's president of the United States. In the middle of this banking crisis, he's kept a steady hand. He's done the things that keep us safe, and I appreciate that.
she's a good liar.
He has? He's kept a steady hand on it? I can't walk up the stairs? Doesn't know which end of the stage to go off of? Can't put two sentences together? He's done what? Besides bail out his buddies, his billionaire buddies?
Well, that's the thing. I believe that the reason that they're being bailed out is because there's a lot of Chinese investors in those banks. Weird.
No.
I know. It's hard to believe.
Hard
to believe that this president would help out China.
Yeah, well, hope you're learning Mandarin Chinese. Maybe they're going to be teaching that at Savannah Country Day one of these days.
Oh, maybe.
Pretty soon. Coming up tomorrow?
We have a lot to talk about, Bill, but we got to get out of here.
Yeah, we'll talk about some finances, too.